Are you going to go do any of them right? Do you want me to do them all?
You're doing great.
Okay, cool. Welcome back to the Behind the Well Show. Roger Abel here with Elias Randall again. Eli, spring break's coming. You have any big plans?
I'm sure I do. I can't remember them right offhand, but I know I'm going to take a couple days off, or at least my calendar's blocked off from meetings, just so we're doing something. I know it involves a hotel. I couldn't tell you what town, but I do know we're doing something at least the Friday night of spring break. Oh, and actually over spring break, I'm going to work for officiating. I'm going to work an indoor arena football scrimmage.
Oh, that'll
be fun. Yeah, I've never worked a game in that league. Apparently it's 8 versus 8, and it's, like in the hockey rink football field thing.
So there's going to be a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of passing and scoring. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
I hope so.
We go somewhere every other year. We try to travel. I think last year we went to Minneapolis, but this year we're going to Florida, get in the sun a little bit, which unfortunately it's going to be really nice here. I'm kind of surprised, like 60s and 70s. But
oh, yeah, I'll be out on my deck getting my sun every day.
I think the big talk around here, though, is March Madness, and it's not men's basketball. It's women's basketball.
It's Caitlyn Clark show.
Well, I don't know. You weren't on the radio show the other night, were you?
No.
So I put in for Indiana Fever season tickets, and I got a call back. In fact, the guy just sent me a message. We talked about this.
They want a decision, don't they? They want to know if you're buying them or not.
They do, but I don't think I can swing for what they want to charge.
Oh.
If it wasn't in the summer, I'd probably do it, but I'm not around. I'm just so busy in the summer. I'd be able to go to like 3 or 4 games. And I know I could try to sell them, but
a lot of work.
Well, we kind of have the motto that we just stay on our own lane, and we're going to focus on helping people with financial stuff in this business. I don't need to go become a ticket broker from 7 hours away. But when I talked to the guy on the phone, he said, man, I can't believe how many people have been calling, which I can only imagine how many people are calling for these tickets.
Oh, yeah, the ticket sales people are loving it. They're having their best year ever.
Okay, so these tickets are expensive. I mean, they're a lot. I looked at what the cheapest ticket when the Indiana Fever go to Chicago, because I'm like, well, I could just go to a game in Chicago. Cheapest ticket was $400 per ticket. Most of them were $1,000 a ticket.
That's really incredible, the impact Caitlyn Clark's having on basketball right now.
You know what a non-Fever game is?
A lot less.
$34.
In Chicago?
In Chicago, $34.
Wow.
I mean, it's a 10x markup. But that's cool. It's kind of what she's brought to the women's college basketball game, and I think it's really good for women's basketball. I didn't really watch much of it up until last year, and now I'm like, this is actually fun basketball to watch. Can I tell you what's ironic about the women's game, though? And I had this talk with our friend Brett, who played for a long time and knows basketball well. I watched the Iowa girls play Minnesota, and they won by like 50 or 60 points. And we were still jacking up 3-pointers with like 40 seconds to go. And I go, like, I told my wife, I'm like, if I was the coach, I'm not sure I want my girls throwing up 3-pointers when we're up 50 off one pass. But that's the way the girls' game's played. I talked to my buddy Brad. I go, what would happen if that was a boys' game? He go, someone would get punched in the face. I mean, think about it. Like, I guess that's the game, and it's fun to watch. But if you're up 50, you got to pass like 10 times, right?
I think if you're up 50, you can just wait for a layup.
I was kind of like, really? But it is what it is. Those girls, there's a bunch of girls who haven't played all year, so good for them. They got to get in and score.
They're getting their
points.
shots in. Good for
there
them.
You go. I saw the greatest article. I know that you are a huge proponent, or you're very conscious of shrinkflation. We've talked about the Cadillac cracker shrinkflation, but this one's great. USA Today had an article just recently in the Cookie Monster. Yes, the cookie monster we all know and love weighed in on shrinkflation. And
he is not a fan.
he sent out a tweet, and this is what the tweet said: "Me hate shrinkflation. Me cookies are getting smaller."
They are.
Do you know what classic
that
is?
Chips Ahoy bag. Those are smaller.
I don't eat cookies, so I don't know. The White House responded and said C is for consumers getting ripped off. It makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, we could keep cookies the same size, but we'll have to charge more. Nobody wants to charge more. No one wants to pay more. Do you expect the cookie company to go out of business? If they do, there's no more cookies.
Now, fortunately, my wife likes to bake cookies, and so does my mother-in-law, so I don't have to eat the store-bought cookies. I just get the good ones at the house. So I'm not suffering. I'm not suffering the same way the Cookie Monster is suffering.
I just think it's
ironic. I'm sure the ingredients I know the ingredients are more expensive. I mean, just like carton eggs, I know there's at least 1 or 2 eggs in that batter, so I know those are more expensive.
Right. Things have gotten more expensive, so 2 things happen. You're going to pay more for the product, or they make them incrementally smaller. And truth be told, a smaller cookie is better for everybody.
I disagree with that.
No, it's better for the
smaller.
It's better for Americans' health. It's less sugar. It's less calories. It's just better in general.
You can have 1. You'll be okay.
You can have 2 if you want it, because now 2 is probably the size of 1. But, think about it. The Cookie Monster weighed in. How small has stuff gotten? I mean, I haven't bought a bag. Are they like little chips now, like poker chips, or?
Yeah, the Cookie Monster's weighing in. I weigh on cookies. I weigh in on crackers. This is getting us to be a serious topic. Maybe both of us will be in USA Today.
Oh my gosh. I ran across another great article on CNBC recently, and in our previous episode last week, we actually talked about personal financial education. And what's great is I ran across this article, and it actually puts a dollar value on personal financial education.
Yeah, I know the dollar value. How do they come to that?
I think they probably look through and they look at things and say, okay, if we teach people how to stay at a high interest debt, we teach people how to save $1, this is what the exponential benefit is. And the amount of money or the value they put on this is staggering. It is. One personal financial education class, so 1 semester in college, is worth $100,000 per student. So let me ask you a question.
That's not what costs the student, though, but
it doesn't cost you. That's the residual value it provides. It makes that person $100,000 better off over their lifetime.
Over their lifetime?
Right, but now take that times how many students are in America that go through high school?
I feel like that number's low.
Well, not necessarily.
I mean, it seems
it doesn't necessarily. Well, you're accounting. They're not accounting for that you'd save more money. They're saying, hey, if you saved a few dollars early, or if you stayed out of debt, just staying out of debt, it's probably just the high interest rate credit card debt. Think about somebody who puts $20,000 on a student loan. They're clicking away at 8% a year. It's $1,600 a year over 20 years. How much interest do they pay? A ton. So financial education class, $100,000 of benefits to your kids. Why don't...
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good value.
We could solve the retirement problem very easily in this country. We require a financial education class in high school and 1 in college. You have to do this to graduate. You have to take 4 years of Spanish to graduate, or foreign language. I guess not Spanish, but foreign language to graduate. Why don't we have to take a semester to a financial education?
It would help.
It would help us.
It would help. People still would have to save the money.
Did you just yawn? Did you just yawn while you were doing the show?
I don't know. Maybe. Did I yawn?
Yeah, you did.
Sorry.
I'm agree this board. We need a blooper reel anyway.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? The financial professionals at Premier Investments and Wealth Management are the guides you've been looking for. Picture this, a financial plan tailored exclusively to you. Our team of experienced professionals will work closely with you to understand your aspirations and develop a personalized roadmap to get you there. Whether you're dreaming of retirement, buying a new home, or sending your kids to college, we've got the tools to give you confidence in your financial life. We'll help you navigate saving and investing, retirement income, and tax strategies. Our job is not just about making money. It's about helping our clients make smart choices. We'll provide you with the tools and knowledge to confidently steer your financial ship toward a brighter future. Are you ready to embark on your financial journey with confidence? Visit www.btwealthshow.com or click the link in the description of this podcast. Your financial future awaits.
It might help, but people
would
still
help.
have to. I guess to really get the most out of it, you still have to save your money. But yeah, it absolutely would help.
You have to be aware. Like, if you're not aware, you only know what you know.
Yeah.
If you become aware of all these different things.
And there would still, I mean, it would help, but there'd still be all the stuff, like all the ideas that, because it's something that, you talk to people like, oh, well, why would I do stock market and the 401k? I should buy real estate, or I should only buy cryptocurrency. Like, it wouldn't get rid of all those ideas, but there probably would be more good savers if we did that.
I think it's simpler than that. I'm going to use myself as an example. I was 21. I was with a buddy of mine. We were actually scouting for my bachelor party. We were figuring out where we were going to go do my bachelor party at. Went down to Davenport, went to the casino. I've been to the casino once with my wife, and I played the slot machines, whatever, $15. Well, I went with two buddies. One guy had a bunch of money, and the other guy, we were broke college kids. So I had my $50. I lost it pretty quick, and he goes, and he was out of money too, so we needed more money to keep gambling. He goes, do you have a credit card? I go, yeah, why? He goes, you can go get a cash advance on that. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, oh, just put it in the machine. They'll give you like whatever your limit is. So $300 shot out. I'm like, no kidding. Do you think I knew what the interest rate was?
Isn't there a fee to typically to
I'm
take
sure.
a cash advance?
I didn't know what the fee was. I don't know. That's the point. If we teach kids about this in college, like, hey, if you go get a cash advance at the casino for $300, you're going to pay X. Those are all the things we're making people aware. I wasn't even aware that a cash advance on a credit card was a thing, let alone what it was going to cost me to do it.
Yeah, learning what a cash advance is when you're 21 at a casino with your 21-year-old friend, probably not the ideal way to learn what you're doing.
I mean, it was the dumbest thing I ever did, but I didn't know. I'm like, hey, we're having fun. All right. They gave me $300. I'm in.
And then you went and gave all that $300 right to the casino?
No. So it's actually a good story. I was with my friend Brad again, and I was down to like not a lot, but I put all of my chips in on one hand, and I happened to hit a blackjack. I basically won all of my money back. And he goes, time to go. I go, why? He goes, you just won the biggest bet of the night. You're not going to win like that again. We got to get out of here. So he kind of drugged me out of there. But I just thought it was a good example of what a personal financial education course could do to help high school kids, college kids, even adults figure out what they need to do to be successful. And goes into really the next segment I want to talk about, and it's that high incomers go broke too because they don't have any of this background in education. Just because someone makes a lot of money doesn't mean that they know how to deal with it.
Knowing how to keep money.
That's good.
Is the
I
difference.
like that.
Because there's plenty, it really does not matter how much you make. What is going to make a difference is how much you can keep. So
I like to watch the YouTube videos where they go around and ask these wealthy people what they did to get their wealth, right? And say, hey, how'd you buy this Lamborghini, or how'd you get this? They had one this morning I was watching. It's kind of like my daily motivation a little bit. The one this morning, the guy had, awesome $15 million mansion, all this stuff. And he goes, people don't understand how I got this. He goes, I made money. I didn't spend that money. I turned around and invested that money. I'm not going to say what the investment was into. And that investment generated me more money. I used the money from the second investment, not from my job, to buy all this stuff. So his business was financing an investment. The investment that he was making was financing his lifestyle. And it was a good
Smart
point.
way to do it.
Because what do most people do? They go make the money, and they
A lot of times it's spent before it even comes in the door.
spend it on their lifestyle instead of another investment. But his point was, if I'm just living off of the returns of my investment, I'm never really increasing my lifestyle. I keep saving and investing in that. So the number one way people blow up earning a bunch of money is they live beyond their means. They get their first high-paying job, and what do? New house, new car, new boat, fancy vacations. Happens really, really fast. And they don't even understand it's happening. It happens a little bit at a time.
Yeah, it does, and then time just goes by too. You know, we all kind of lose track of time throughout the years too.
Nobody, you'll appreciate this. Nobody actually plans on living beyond their means. No one is set out and said, hey, I'm going to intentionally go broke. It just happens.
Yeah, probably not.
And then once they get there, you know, we've had the joke for a while that there's only one thing worse than running out of money. It's running out of lifestyle. Once you're accustomed to something, it's really hard to go back.
Yeah, you don't want to, and hopefully you don't have to.
The second thing, the second way that high earners go broke is they don't have emergency funds. Got to have an emergency fund, especially if you make a lot of money, because people who make a lot of money, typically they're either a business owner or in their job that has more risk, and your lifestyle is more, so things are more expensive.
Which would require more of an emergency fund if those things are true.
One thing I see a lot of, or one thing I've noticed, Elias, is a lot of higher income earners have a propensity to use credit cards out of convenience. And typically they can pay them off. The issue with it is if one thing bad happens, they may not be able to pay it. And a high income earner, they don't have credit limits of $5,000. They're $50,000 to $100,000 limits on their credit cards. And
yeah, their limits are going to be
the
higher.
limits are
so you can,
significantly
you can
higher.
get, that's a good, I've never really thought about that. Just access to it. You make more money, so you just have more access to credit.
I have a friend who paid for med school on his Cabela's card. Seriously. Put it on the card, get the points, pay it off the next day with the student loan money.
I'm sure he racked up a lot of points.
He was going to buy a boat on this Cabela's card. I'm like, that's actually a brilliant idea because it's 5% cash back. He goes on $70,000. I'm getting $3,500 free, and he could write a check for it, which he did. But he literally is like, I might put this boat on my Cabela's card because he had a limit that's $100,000+.
That's awesome.
But that's what.
That's awesome.
But here's the problem. What happens if you put the $70,000 boat on there and then something else happens and now you can't afford to pay it? Now you're clicking away at 18% a year. Well, probably 20% a year now.
Yeah, so there's risk. There's risk with doing that. And speaking of risk and things around that, high income earners are also susceptible to just making poor investment choices. And I think sometimes, I call it people get cute. Like sometimes someone will bring an idea, they'll say, hey, I was reading about this. What do you think about it? And a lot of the stuff is just not, could it work out? Absolutely, it could. And maybe some people, there's a diversification argument to be made for some of these different ideas. But for the most part, people are just better off buying good investments and then owning them for a long time. It's just a way to keep growing your wealth, accumulate. And, if you start making goofy choices and then it doesn't work out, it may or may not blow up your situation, but just why, sometimes I ask people, why even put yourself in the situation?
We see it all the time. How many professional athletes have made or lost everything.
Yeah, on
Because of
weird
bad-
business deals with a friend
Doesn't
or a
have to be
family
hard.
member. And
We're guilty too. We think, the more people have, sometimes it has to be more complicated. No, it doesn't. It goes back to, do you remember we talked about Ryan Serhant, that real estate agent out of New York? He had like 80-some billionaires in his speed dial.
okay, yes, I remember that.
And he said the one thing about ultra wealthy people, they keep it really simple. This doesn't have to be complicated. He talked about people buying their first $1 million or $2 million property. They think they need a banker involved and an attorney and all this stuff. But a guy buying a $50 million property, just
Where do I sign? I'm
right?
ready to buy it.
It's not
On to the next
overcomplicated.
project,
The investment doesn't have to be overly complicated. If it's overly complicated, the investment, you should ask yourself why.
That's a good
Why?
question.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Most people have built massive wealth by keeping it simple. What do? They make a monthly systematic contribution to a workplace retirement plan that adds up to a few $1 million over time. Just because you make a bunch of money doesn't mean it needs to be more complicated than that. Another way,
and like you just said, billionaires typically keep it simple. So, right, if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for us.
well, and you know what they probably haven't done? They probably haven't planned. They like, oh, we have a lot of money. We don't need to do any planning.
I bet a lot of billionaires feel that, like, what do I need to, right? That'd be the mentality. What do I need to plan for?
Well, okay, even a person
I
with
got it.
10 million, they're like, I'm okay. But why wouldn't you still have an element of planning in there?
Probably should.
And what it would do is it'd help quantify the risk. Like, think about it. If you had X amount of dollars, say you have $5 million, and you're going to do some risky investment of $2.5 million, what's the upside versus the downside? What's going to hurt? What is the gain going to feel that much better than the pain if you lose it all? No,
If you lose it all, you're going to be miserable.
That's the greatest way to kind of analyze the investment decision. What happens if I lose it all? So, Elias, I've got an example of this. I have a few customers that have what I would consider a fairly risky investment, and they've asked me what they should do with it. And it's not investment we sell, so I really can't give them any advice on what they should do. But I posed this question. I said, if you lost all of this, how would it change your life?
What was the answer?
In both situations, it wouldn't, because they've also accumulated enough other money that this investment just happened to get really large. So it helped guide their decision making. If they would have told me, well, it would completely destroy my life, then that answers the question of what they should do with it. They should purge it. But in both situations that I can think of, I said, how does it change your life? It wouldn't change my life. That's how you should guide risky investments. If I put X amount of dollars into a risky investment and I lose it all, how does it change my life? And you have to be honest with yourself about it.
Yeah, if it's going to change your life, then
you don't do it.
right.
Simple.
And you got to be able.
The
You got
payoff's
to be
not
able to
worth
make.
it.
Yeah, you got to be able to make the decision.
Do you know why? A risky investment is just that. It might have a great payoff, but likely it has big downside too.
Right, and so many people have built wealth without taking excessive risk. Like it's not necessary to do it.
Well, an excessive risk is in a particularly segment of investments. People say, well, they ask me all the time, is it a good time to invest or a good time to save money?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if we're going to be using standard stock market investments you'd find in a Roth IRA or a 401k, just, stuff that has shown over a long period of time, it's always a good time to invest. Is it optimal? Maybe not, but it's still a good time if you're going to hold it 10 or 15 or 20 years.
I like that. It might not be the optimal time, but it's still a good time.
You don't have to do it at the optimal time to be successful.
You don't.
You have to be willing to hold on to it for a longer period of time. And I actually see that a lot of people are concerned with this. They're concerned, especially when they're getting started investing, or if they're not doing a systematic, they're going to write a check for a bigger chunk of money. Oh, is this a good time? I always get that. Is this a good time? It's always a good time. I don't know what the market's going to do. It might not be a good time in the next 12 months, but over the next 10, 15, and 20 years, it's likely a good time.
It's likely a good time. I actually heard a saying, it might have been, maybe it was Money Guy show, but they say something like the best time to invest was yesterday.
Yeah, it always has
today's
been.
second best to that. That's a good way to think of it. Like, just the sooner you get the money and you get it saved and invested, the better.
If you look at
It's
money,
an easy way to think about it.
if you were to look at money like planting trees,
Yeah, you just go plant the seed.
That would guide your decision-making process. Is every year a great year to plant a tree? No. You might lose some limbs. I have trees I plant in my backyard right before derecho.
How'd that work out?
They're big trees, so the roots came out of the ground, so I got them put back in. Are the trees optimal? They're okay. One's a little crooked now. Are they still growing and getting bigger and all that stuff? Yeah, they are. But had I not done it, guess what? They'd be a lot smaller.
Next time I'm at your house and I notice the crooked tree, I'm going to say something about how I don't like how that tree's crooked over there.
You know what's interesting about trees? They grow towards the sun, right? So
Yeah.
the base is a little crooked, but now it's starting to go straight up at the top.
Oh, it's got a little swoop in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know,
Cool tree.
Elias, 2024 is the year of blanket advice. And one of the things I wanted to do on the podcast is always challenge a piece of advice. And instead of focusing on why you should do it, talk a little bit about why you shouldn't. And this week we're going to talk about the 10% rule. And, you know, it's widely touted that you should save 10% of your annual income for retirement. And I actually believe this is a great starting point if you're getting out of college and you don't know what to do. Start pounding 10, 15, 20% away. Just do what you can. But let's talk
exactly
about
what I was going to say.
Yeah, I actually think this is good advice starting out.
It is, and my first comment was going to be, at a young enough age, this very well may be all you would ever have to do is save 10%. But it's also very possible that 10% wouldn't be enough. It's possible, depending on your lifestyle, 10% is too much. I don't know. Most people who are successful with money, their savings rate, I would say what we have found, it's going to be higher than 10%. I feel like a lot of people we work with that have been successful, maybe not right away, but at some point they were saving higher than 10% of their income to accomplish
maybe
what they have.
Or they started sooner. Let's go back to, was it this show we talked about $200 a month for 50 years?
Well, yeah, if you did that, that's all you ever have to do. And
Right.
that could be way less. Well, that's certainly going to be way less than 10% of your income.
Thus the reason we believe in having a personalized financial plan to quantify what you need to do. It's simple.
Yeah, and that's...
If you're 50, you might need to save 25%. You had, what was the example you used? Was it this show or the previous show? You had a gal who had been getting enough to get her match since she started working.
Yeah, so she thought, kind of the way she explained it was she just misunderstood, but she thought if she did enough to get the match, that would grow into being enough to provide for her retirement someday. She's put in 3 and they put in 3 in addition. So 6% of her total income. And she was just following blanket advice, probably from someone she knows or someone who work with. Oh, you just put in what they'll give you. We hear people say stuff like that. And she started doing the plan about 15 years ago, and she made a comment, I could really have more in here. I could have saved more, but I thought I was like doing the right responsible thing. So she just didn't know that that's a good start. It's probably going to take, depending on age, it's maybe going to take more than that, maybe less. Like the example you said, well, if you do $200 for 50 years, but that's pretty extreme. Most people don't do that. Most people aren't going to start saving until they're between 20 and 25.
I'm playing devil's advocate on the flip side because we actually run into the situation where people don't need as high of a saving rate as they are doing, and they could have more lifestyle now. And let's be honest, what's saving $10 million going to do for you at 65 if you're only going to live on 30 grand?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I've actually had people lower contribution rates like as they get closer to retirement because they're there, and then they might ask, well, okay, so we have enough for retirement, but we want to get our house paid off. Well, that's easy. Get the house paid off because we've already shown you don't need to save anymore. So their contribution rate to be successful is 0 at that point. And sometimes they want to buy, well, my last 2 years I'm going to buy this nice vehicle and I just want to get it paid off. Go ahead, do it. You don't need to save anymore.
That's so funny.
So, yeah.
People think they want to buy a car like right before they retire, like it's going to be their last car.
I know a lot of people.
I have a friend of mine, his dad, before he retired, said, hey, this is going to be my last Jeep. And he laughed. He goes, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're going to drive that for 30 years.
He's had 3 cents.
You've never driven a car for 30 years. Now you're going to keep one for 30 years.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah. With that said, appreciate everybody listening to the show today. I thought it was a great one. If you're looking to get 2024 started off on the right foot, you can go to btwellshow.com. We'll get you our 1-page Premier Vision document, or you can click the link in the description below. We'd love to get you started. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you're not following us on social media, you can do that at btwellshow.com. Once again, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.